The Alex Murdaugh murder trial. It is day 16, and it started with a delay this morning because two of the jurors tested positive for COVID-19 and they had to be dismissed.
Two alternate jurors were brought in to take their places. Our Greg Adeline has been following the proceedings closely today. Greg, what can you tell us as far as whether or not this delays the trial?
Well, Billie Jean and Dondi, that remains to be seen. That jury panel now down to 12 jurors and 3 alternates after 2 of them tested positive for COVID. That news coming right at the beginning of the day's proceedings. Judge Newman describing that situation and, of course, the prosecution and defense arguing about how that will impact this trial as it continues. But you have to think that with 2 of those jurors testing positive, all of the other jurors who are on this panel were likely exposed on Friday. Now, those jurors, they sit in a cramped room, and they were all together on Friday. Today, the judge ruled that ultimately the show will go on, and some of those jury members were wearing masks as the proceedings continued. To the testimony now, where the state called 2 DNA analysts from SLED who spent the day going over their findings from the scene of the murders on June the 7th, 2021. Rachel Wynn is a DNA analyst with SLED. She testified that Maggie's DNA was found on a recovered shotgun, although it is important to note that neither of the murder weapons have been recovered in this case. Sarah Zapata is another SLED DNA analyst. She testified that Maggie and Paul's DNA was found on the steering wheel of Alex's SUV, that Suburban. She also testified that various spots of Alex Murdaugh's white T-shirt also tested positive for Maggie and Paul's DNA, although further testing was inconclusive for blood. That is something that the defense wrote on an easel and showed it directly to the jury during their cross-examination. So really, that was something that the defense sought to highlight. It's also worth noting the analyst said that no blood was found on that raincoat at Alex's mother's home in Alameda, although other experts have already said that there was a good amount of gunshot residue on the inside. Clearly, all of the testimony today was technical, it was tedious, and at times, let's face it, it was largely inconclusive. The only real takeaway on the whole is that a lot of this DNA evidence collected on the scene all but eliminated the boat crash victims as well as groundskeeper C.B. Rowe at Moselle from being involved. Now, you'll remember that Alex Murdaugh pointed to them as possible suspects in his first interview with law enforcement in the early morning hours of June 8th, 2021. The prosecution and defense immediately expressing concerns, meanwhile, about a possible delay in this trial because of COVID concerns. Judge Newman putting it to bed, saying that the show must go on. Take a listen to what he said.
Ladies and gentlemen, you might notice that a few of your jurors are missing. Those jurors have been excused. I see many of you are masked up. Hopefully we do everything we can to keep everyone safe, including members of the court. I'm not going to order any wearing of masks by jurors, but encourage it.
Judge Newman also saying that masks were available for anybody who wants them. But back to some of that testimony again earlier today, at times it was very technical. Sometimes it might have even seemed contradictory, trying to figure out whose DNA was found where on all of these various pieces of evidence, an avalanche of evidence in a lot of different ways that in no way kind of contradicted anything that has been said so far in this case. Nothing really sticking out. All of that information just kind of washing over jurors. So you wonder how they took that as all of this information came forward as testimony continues this afternoon. We're live in Walterboro. Greg Adeline, WIS News 10.